Greetings, salutation, one and all. Welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show, your weekly ritual. We're tuning in to myself and Red talk about hockey for an hour this week on Tuesday because of scheduling episode on my end. Thanks, Red, for accommodating moving the show from yesterday to today. These things have a funny way of working themselves out. More topics come to light as you watch more hockey and more things happen. Um, let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets. First off, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about hockey and after our show to watch a little hockey. So, yeah, all good.
Yeah, for sure. The Jets will take on the St. Louis Blues, a new look Winnipeg Jets lineup, which we'll get into. Personally, one that I'm very excited about. I don't know if you've seen the lineup for tonight, Rich, but it raises a lot of eyebrows, and we'll see if it works.
Well, you have to have Scheifele. Scheifele, I know he hasn't been the same since that scrap with Ekblad. I think he strained a shoulder muscle or a bicep muscle or an elbow, like a something, strained his shoulder, strained his elbow, and he's got some muscle strain and he can't take face-offs. He's not the same player in the corners. He's not
Nope.
fighting for the puck the same way that he used to before. And so now, and I like this idea. They have Lambert on center on the second line. They move Nemestikov up the first line, and they put some size on that line with Lambert and Perfetti on the second line. That's good. They spread it out, and then they have Nemestikov between Connor and Scheifele. So that's good.
Let's get to that first. I think the top story this week is the Winnipeg Jets go 0-3, but lose Nikolai Ehlers to injury in Las Vegas. So the lineup today featured the bottom two lines being the same as normal. The top line, it is Vladislav Nemestikov centering Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. It is Brad Lambert centering Cole Perfetti and Gabriel Velarde. Your thoughts on this configuration before we get into the games?
It's good. You have to do it. You have to do something to spread it out. They haven't scored enough goals. They've only scored, over the last week, they've lost 3 in a row and only scored 5 goals in 3 games. They just, so Scheifele's not going to be playing center until he heals. I don't know how long that's going to take because when you're playing, every second day, it's hard to heal. Maybe over the Christmas break, that'll provide him some time to heal, but he hasn't been the same player since that game against Florida that they won 6-3. And on this road trip, their Jets went 2-4, which is not good enough, right? So it's, they've got to do something, and that's good. And you're gonna remember we talked about this. I was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and we said, "Oh, the Jets look so good," blah blah blah. And I just said the injury bug hasn't hit him yet. And then now, boom, boom, boom. Samberg, Scheifele, Ehlers. There you go.
Yeah, the injury bug has hit the Winnipeg Jets finally after the first little bit of the month, first little bit of the season, pardon me. Didn't really have a lot of injury. Let's look at the projected St. Louis Blues lineup with new coach Jim Montgomery. Just give me 1 second here. I had it pulled up. Oh, here it is. The St. Louis Blues have Robert Thomas centering Jake Neighbors and Alexander Texier. Braden Shen centering Brendan Saad and Jordan Kyrou. Sundqvist centering Holloway and Bolduc. Fatsa centering Topachenko and Joseph. The D-pairs are Suter Pareto, Robert Falk, Pierre-Olivier Joseph, and Kessel. And it's expected to be the Manitoban Joe Hofer starting in goal tonight over Jordan Binnington. The scratches are Walker. Injuries for St. Louis. Pavel Buchnevich, lower body. defenseman by the last name of Punasevic is undisclosed. Nicoletti lower body, Torrey Crude and ankle. Torrey Crude expected to miss most of this year. Winnipeg Jets, healthy scratches, Colin Miller, Dylan Clodwind. You can, on the injury by Dylan Samberg, a broken foot, and Nick Wheeler's a lower body injury.
So then, whoa. Then who's going to be on the third pairing? Heinola and who?
Stanley.
Heinola and Stanley on the third pairing?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Hey,
And
let's go.
the lines, as we've already discussed, Domestikov centering Connor and Shifley, Lambert centering Perfetti, Velarde, Lowry centering Nina Ryder and Appleton, Kupari centering Barron and Iafallo, Morrissey, DeMello, Fleury, Pionk, Stanley, Heinola. But I didn't get a chance to see a lot of the games live this week. I did see Las Vegas. I did see Minnesota. Did not see Dallas, although that was a pretty good game, but the lack of scoring hurt the Winnipeg Jets. I want to talk about Hayden Fleury up in Dylan Samberg's spot. It's been a week. What have you thought about Hayden Fleury in an elevated top 4 minutes? For me, he hasn't done anything to hurt his stock in that lineup spot. And until he proves otherwise, A, he can't handle it, he gets injured or lack of performance, I don't see a reason to move Hayden Fleury from that spot.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have many options, right? I mean, who are you going to put Logan Stanley up there with even less experience in the second pairing? I mean, it shows you how good a player Samberg has been, because when he's out of the lineup, I think that's a huge part. Like that to me is a big reason why they lost their last 3 games, is Samberg not being in the lineup. He kills penalties. He's on the second pairing. He's playing against some of the other team's very best players. He's out there all the time with the huge defensive responsibilities, and now he's out of the lineup. And Fleury's a good player, but I don't think he's in the same class as Samberg. So, you know, there's a little bit of a fall off, but how that impacts the game in terms of how much it actually affects the winning and losing, maybe not. It's hard to, you have no experiment to prove otherwise, because the Jets might have lost all 3 games on the road here, these last 3 in the last week, if Samberg had actually been in the lineup. So I don't know. It's good, but all in all, he hasn't looked terrible. It's just that, I think we said this before, and this is opinion. You've got Josh Morrissey, and then you've got 3 pretty good defensemen in DeMello, Samberg, and Pionk. That's sort of your just slightly better than average. And then you've got a whole bunch of average guys: Fleury, Miller, Heinola, Stanley, Coghlan, and they're just interchangeable. There's nobody there that pops or stands out. You got a bunch of average guys. So if any of your top 4 go, which we've seen now with Samberg, it makes a huge impact, because now you got to take one of your above average guys out, and you have to put in an average guy or even a slightly below average to the NHL in for that person. And it means Josh Morrissey's now going to play 24, 25 minutes a game, which is unsustainable over the course of a long stretch if he's doing it every second night. I just don't think it's feasible. But anyway, it is what it is. They have to do something. They got injuries now. I like what they're doing. You and maybe I put it out there. I know Logan Stanley's made a ton of mistakes. He's taken a ton of stupid penalties. I wish he would get that. He doesn't need to cross-check a guy that's not part of the play, or that's nothing. Shove a forearm into his back. You don't have to use the stick to do it, but he needs to play. In my opinion, Logan Stanley is only going to get better. We're only going to see what Logan Stanley can do if he's a regular third pairing defenseman on this team from now until the end of the season. In my mind, he has to play every night. He has to play on the third pairing, and he's got to kill penalties. That's where he's going to be. He maybe one day he becomes a second pair guy, like a top 4 guy. But for now, a 5th, 6th defenseman, killing penalties, being nasty, getting involved if another team starts to take liberties with your guys. That's what he is. And I want him to be the very best Logan Stanley he can be. And he can't be that if he plays a game and then he sits for 5 games and then he plays a game and then he sits for 3 games. Mistakes and warts and all, he's got to play, then watch the video, and then go play again and get better. That's how he gets better. Because otherwise you're just wasting your time with a first-round draft pick, in my humble opinion. How about you?
I'm going to be very careful how I phrase this.
Okay.
Based on, and for the record, social media like Twitter and X and Blue Sky and all of those types of social platforms were passed in discourse with games and what games are going on are all great. But I don't think it's an accurate representation of how to watch a game. I think you miss so much, by not being able to watch the game live, but things are overreacting in social media circles in the moment.
Okay.
For the life of me, I'm trying to figure out why Logan Stanley is this fan base's whipping boy all of a sudden.
All of a sudden?
Well,
it's not all of a sudden,
but it's like people are clamoring for him to get in the lineup. They did in the lineup, and now they want him to play like Cale Makar. And if he's not Cale Makar, it's like, sit Logan Stanley now. Move on. Like, I must have seen 5 or 6 tweets in the game on Sunday in a row that were negative on Logan Stanley. So my question to the fan base is, what is it? Do you want him in the lineup or do you not want him in the lineup? And if you're not going to want him in the lineup, give him some time to settle into a role. I don't understand. The fan base has to have a whipping boy for whatever reason.
You don't think it's justified?
I think this whole thing on Logan Stanley is extremely misguided at times.
Why?
Well, just like, what do they expect from a guy that, doesn't play, doesn't, in my opinion, in most cases, he doesn't get put in positions to succeed. Granted, I don't think Logan Stanley has played well in his limited opportunities to warrant an opportunity up in the lineup. Like, for the record, I review Logan Stanley as a top pairing defenseman, and I'm extremely skeptical about what would happen with a Logan Stanley in your top 4. Now, but I just don't understand why Logan Stanley is this whipping boy that the fan base likes to rail on every now and then, for lack of a better word. Like, can you help me explain, Red, why we just can't get a sensible reason to give this guy some time to settle into the lineup?
Okay, but how many years has it been since he was drafted? He's 24. It's at least 6 years. He played 1 or 2 years in junior. He's played 3 years with the Manitoba Moose, and then he's been up and down with the Jets in that time over the last few years. Now they signed him to a 1-year deal, an extension. I don't think he's a UFA still after this coming deal. But the thing is this: if he was a 5th-round draft choice, you could cut bait and you let that fish sink to the bottom of the lake, or you let it swim away. He's a 1st-round draft pick, and he was an upgraded pick. So they moved from a lower spot, put a 2nd rounder together with a 1st to move up in the 1st round to get him, I think, at 18 or 17 or whatever he was that year, maybe even 14. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, so they've invested a lot in him. They've invested a ton of coaching in him. He's played better in the past during COVID and lockdown, there were games in the playoffs that he played really well. But now he just looks, I think he looks unconfident. That would be my call. He's not sure. I think he knows that eyes are on him. He's afraid to make a mistake. He doesn't play with confidence. He doesn't like, if I was the coach, I would say, here, let's watch tape. Move your feet, Logan. You got to move your feet. You always got to be moving your feet. Don't stand around and don't take stupid penalties. Don't hit a guy for no reason in front of the net. You can body him, but don't cross-check him. Be tough, but be smart and play your game. And if you get beat once in a while, it's okay. You're going to learn from that. What do you need to do next time? How do you need to position your body better? But you can't do that just from watching videos and practicing. You have to play against the world's best hockey players to learn to be better. He played at the AHL level. Now he needs to play at the NHL level on a regular basis. But fans are going to poke him because he's a first-round draft choice. And it's visible. Everybody's waiting for him to finally, we've been waiting and waiting. Logan, now's your chance. Let's go. Show it. Even if you make mistakes, we're okay. Keep on a trajectory. It may go up 3 steps, drop 1, up 3, drop 2, up 4, drop 2, whatever. But he needs to slowly be moving up that trajectory. And you can't do that. Again, this is my last time I'm saying it. You can't do that sitting on the bench or sitting in the press box. You got to play. So that's why I'm hoping this screwing around with putting in Fleury, well, Fleury's in because of the injury to Samberg. But in my mind, he should be in that bottom 3 or bottom 2 pairing of defensemen every night. Whoever you play with him on the other side, whether it's Miller, Heinola, or Fleury when Samberg comes back, I don't care. He's got to be in the lineup all the time. That's my opinion.
Here's a follow-up that I don't even know if you have the answer to, but it's a notion that I've seen from this fan base, among others. Do you feel the organization is stuck justifying why they took him in the first round?
You think like there's still this idea that the Jets don't want to admit that they made a mistake, so they want to keep on.
No, I'm not saying it's a mistake, but they're trying to justify this guy as a first rounder. He's going to be given ample rope and ample opportunity because, well, if it doesn't work out, they know the fan base is going to look at it as a failed first round pick experiment. Do you understand my question?
Yeah. But I don't know what you mean. Like what? Like
I guess what I'm trying to say is General Manager Kevin Cheveldayoff and starting staff obviously saw something in Logan Stanley to make him a first-round pick. Do you think this is management trying to somehow justify that he is a first-round pick despite his shaky / not smooth performances at times?
I don't think they have to justify that he's a first round pick. I don't know what the Jets are thinking. I think if I had to guess, I would say they've put too much into him in terms of the level of his choice in the draft and the coaching and everything else to give up on a 6'7" guy that's 240 pounds. You can't coach weight and size and having an edge, but you can coach foot speed. You can coach positioning. You can coach using your brain, having a hockey IQ, being situationally aware. Those things you can learn. You can't learn 6'7", 240 pounds. So to me, that's why they're not going to give up on him. They're going to give him every chance. But I know the fans have had enough. I got friends that just say that was the largest Jets mistake ever was selecting Stanley. And I'm not ready to say goodbye to Stanley yet. I'm not, because he's still only 24. Some defensemen, they don't even, some guys come out like Makar, they're 20 years old, 19 years old, they get it right away. Okay, fine. That's 1 in a million. Look at Josh Morrissey. He really didn't come until his own until he was in his early 20s, till he's 23, 24. Right. So I'm just saying, give Logan Stanley a chance. If he makes it, if in the next year he finally acquires whatever it is, he's get his foot speed up, he gets his brain working properly, you get maybe 7 years out of him into his early 30s to being a great third pairing defenseman who's nasty, can clear the front of the net, can kill penalties, and can fight when you need him to set things right and to play a physical game. That's what you want. And I just don't think they're not gonna stop the experiment. Well, it's not experiment. They're not gonna stop the trial or this thing. They're gonna go with this right to the end. See, there's some comments. Some folks think it's a big mistake.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm just looking something
I don't
up.
think so yet.
So I'm just looking something up here. Then we'll get to those comments. Sorry, hold on a minute. Yeah, Logan Stanley was drafted in 2016 for contest. That was the Patrick Laine draft. Austin Matthews going first overall. Patrick Laine going second, and at the third overall draft pick was Pierre-Luc Dubois, Alex Nylander, Jacob Chitrin, Olivier Levy, Charlie Mataboy, etc. The interesting part is, I'm just trying to find it here quickly, but we'll get to some of the comments right now. Rob, we've seen Stanley play a regular role on the team. He's not the type of defenseman that the team needs. He lacks the physicality that the team needs. He needs to use his size to his advantage. My response to that is simply, I think it's a confidence thing with Logan Stanley. When he's confident, he plays well, but his confidence is not there all the time when it needs to be. Here he says Fleury and Miller to be ahead of Stanley on the team depth chart. While you're kind of getting into that, Logan Stanley needs to be in the minors kind of discussion. I don't know how he does any better without playing. That's just the reality of the situation right now. Red, we'll talk about the Winnipeg Jets as we continue on. I did want to talk about one other team. That is the New York Rangers. They are on absolute free fall since Chris Drury let it be known that Jacob Trouba and Chris Kreider were available in trades. Ooh, what is going on in New York? They got a Manhattan and Big Apple size problem over there.
Well, yeah. Other than their win over Montreal, I think they've really had a hard time over the last few weeks. And you know what the expectation is? See, that's the thing. Like, they're still a playoff team. They're still in the playoffs. But when the expectations are so high, like everyone in New York was expecting them to win their division and to be up there up against Toronto or Florida for the lead in the conference, and they're not there. And so the expectation is so high that even anything less than that is considered a failure. And so, the team is basically saying, it shocks me though. Is it not shocking to you? Like, that you're giving up, like, teams don't, like, you're not competing for the Stanley Cup now. That happens in April. So I'm saying you've got this team of veteran guys, you've got so much experience, and you're going to trade guys away and throw away the season because of how you are one quarter into the year. That stuns me. That absolutely stuns me. But that's New York. Maybe that's just the way it is. But it's to me, I would not be doing that. I would be holding on to these guys and let's push a little bit further. Let's see what goes into the new year after the Four Nations Cup break, and then see what happens. But
Rich, in your experience, something like that getting out, does that disrupt the room that much?
It probably does to some degree, but I don't know. If you're winning, see, this is the thing. If you're winning and everything's going great, then there's no talk about this stuff. But then as soon as you're not hitting your expectations, then there's talking about this stuff. And then New York, maybe stuff scrambles out. But listen, I've never been an NHL hockey player, so I don't know. But I would argue this: when you're in the middle of your season, whoever's a UFA in your room at the end of the season that you're in, and now you've entered that season, you're a quarter of the way through, halfway through, and you've got 2 UFAs, 3 UFAs, and they haven't signed, and there's no negotiating going on, and your team is middling, and now they're probably not going to make the playoffs. Well, you know those guys are going to be traded. Like there's almost 100% chance that they're going to be traded. So even if it's not said, like with the Rangers, I mean, it's not said, but even if it wasn't said and they were middling and they were just there, the team could decide at any time, even if we're in a playoff position, we're in a wild card, we're probably not going to go anywhere in the first round, having to play against Toronto or Florida or whoever it is in first place. So they're saying, then they're going to start to trade away those guys to get new assets and to get a whole bunch of draft picks. So I'm saying, isn't that disruptive? I mean, every year there's UFAs. So every year there's going to be some type of disruption with the cloud of somebody being traded away, right? I mean, that happens. Right. So I don't know. It's right, just shocking to me. It's just shocking to me that they're talking about this one quarter of the way into the season. Like if they were talking about it in January, February, or right after that Four Nations break, it's late February, it's still 3 weeks before the trade deadline, and the team is just in a wild card spot or in third place, and the team's, are we going to do? Then I could understand this comes out, and now they decide either to trade away the UFAs or they're all in and they're going to try one more time. But now, in the first week of December, the last week of November, that's
and one of which being your captain. It just makes no sense.
Not to me, but
what do we make of it? Like, where does this end? Like, this can't continue for the Rangers, can it? I mean, their owner James Dolan, you know, he has a high standard of winning within MSG, whether it's the Nets or the Rangers. Like, you can't let this sit and continue, can it? Or can you?
Well,
it's just, what do you do, right? You fired Jeff Gorton, replaced him with Chris Drury for basically the same reason. Chris Drury is like, I got this job because the guy that was in the job did the same thing, so I'm very aware of it. I could be replaced for doing the same thing. Like, to me, it's just unnecessary distraction for a Ranger team that, let's face it, has been very good for the last 5 to 7 years. They just haven't been able to win in the playoffs. And now, unfortunately, I think the rubber's going to meet the road with that team. Not saying they can't make the playoffs. There's still a lot of season left. But I think it's just they unnecessarily rocked the boat. And I think it's going to potentially lead to some changes. Just how deep those changes go, we'll never know.
Right.
Until they happen.
Yep.
So anyway, that was just one of the things that was kind of on my radar when I was watching the Rangers. And they had a 4-3 win over Montreal, but like very quickly the Rangers are getting to my list of teams, but I have a lot of questions about. They're 13-10-1 through 24 games. They are in a playoff spot, the first wild card spot. Right now, they're 1 point up on Tampa, who's on the outside looking in. Tampa, the Blue Jackets, Buffalo all have games in hand on them. Philadelphia's in a wild card spot right now with 27 points. Get this, Rich. Just as a complete aside, the Flyers are 12-10-3, sitting in the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. They have 5 regulation wins this year. 5.
Right.
And they have 8 overtime or shootout wins. So what does that tell you about the Flyers? It just makes me wonder. Really where that team is gonna stand. Very quickly, let's talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're 4-2 in their last 6. They're going
Yeah.
to Calgary tonight to play the Flames in a game where they're going to celebrate Johnny Gaudreau. Are the Blue Jackets at 11-9-3, currently 2 points back with games in hand on both the Rangers and the Flyers? A pleasant surprise to you, given everything that has gone on around that organization?
Yeah, maybe that's maybe that's just something to having a bond, right? Like they all love Johnny Gaudreau and they miss him. He's a huge part of their lineup that's gone, but you can in some ways rally around that, right? And they have good players on that team. I mean, there are good players, and it could also be a product too of the schedule. Like look at the Jets. I mean, they were 15-0, whatever it was, 17-1 or 18-2 or whatever it was. Yeah. And now they play a stretch where they go on the road. They've played, what is that, 6, 7, 8, 9 of their last 10 games. I've looked at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9 of their last 10 games have been on the road, all against very good hockey teams, except maybe you could argue the Penguins. And what are they? 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 4-6. So is that right? 1, 2, no, 5 and 5. 1, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, yeah, they're 4-6, and they've lost to very good teams. And they've lost, so it's the schedule, right? So they played a lot of very tough playoff caliber teams who play that kind of playoff grinder style, like Dallas, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Florida, Rangers. They've won some of the games, but they've also lost games. So they've gone 4-6, and they've played against some very good teams in that stretch, except for Pittsburgh, like I say. So 9 out of 10 on the road, and they go 4-6. I think that's the reality. And so maybe with the long story short, maybe for Columbus, I haven't seen Columbus's schedule, but maybe they had games against some teams that were a little bit weaker, a little bit softer schedule in that 4-2 stretch. And so that's part of it. But there's ups and downs throughout the year, right? I mean, the Jets were super. Now like I say, they've lost 3 in a row. They've lost, if you look at it now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of their last 6. So they're 2-4 over their last 6. So it's going to happen. But I think the Jets, it's injuries. I think they're tired. That's a team that's really going to enjoy the break, the 5-day break over the holidays. I think that'll be really good for Winnipeg. They will really, because November was a very hard month for Winnipeg, in my opinion. So, but
do you feel like, all things being equal, the Jets did about as well as they could have?
Yeah, I think they deserve maybe a better fate.
To me, I would argue they deserved a better fate in Dallas. Maybe they don't make a brain blunder. They probably deserved a better fate in Vegas.
Yeah.
But I mean, beggars can't be choosers. 9 out of 10 on the road. Pretty daunting stretch, whether you take it or not. I mean, 5-5 and 4-6.
Yeah, they were 1 game below 500. You're right, over the last 10. But what's the only thing that was a little bit concerning to me is like they didn't look good at all in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, they just looked tired, whipped. They were just completely out of it. And they were like that in Nashville too. They looked really good in the Minnesota after the first period. Hellebuck hung them in there when they were only down 1-0, and then they came back and won 4-1. But the 2 games that really concerned me were the last 2. Like against Vegas, they were in that game right to the end. They were 3-3 in the third period, right? And then Vegas scored that final goal. But they kept coming back, down by a goal, tying, come down by a goal. But the problem is in that game, and you and I chatted about this yesterday or the day before when we saw each other.
Yeah.
What really saddened me about that game against Vegas is, if fans remember, 3 of the 4 goals against were the direct result of a really either laziness or really bad play by 3 guys that you could argue are the 3 of the best defensive players on the team. And that is Adam Lowry, Nemestikov, and Morgan Barron. And boy, the goals were Nemestikov and Lowry were watching guys, but just not skating, not in the right position. And it was all hustle. It's just hustle and brains. And that's, it's a goal. Boom. That's really sad. But what I really liked is after that game, I'm sure they looked at videotape. Adam Lowry played like a man possessed on Sunday. You could argue he was the best Jet. He was banging, crashing, knocking down pucks, getting into the corner, getting in front of the net. He had a few chances to score, set up a few guys. And I think that's a direct response. He saw that videotape of how he played against Vegas, and he responded in a really big way. And then in that game against the Stars, I don't know, for you can give me your 2 cents on it, but you're late in the third period. A guy comes down on Morrissey with his back to you. Hellebuck has to make that save. You cannot let a guy score on a backhand from.
Is that the Mason Marchment goal?
Yeah, you can't. I don't care how difficult it is. Come out. He's only going to do one thing. Morrissey's in front of him. He can't skate. He can't move. All he's going to do is flick the puck. So come towards him and cut off the angle.
Yeah.
Like there is no excuse. You have to make that save late in a game. 5 minutes left in a game. You have to make that save. You can't let that go in. On a backhander from there, I don't care if you're a Vezina winner or not. That's not good enough, Connor. I'm sorry. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but that one, the Jets deserve a better fate. I was thinking they go into overtime and then anything can happen, right? I mean,
right.
Who knows?
But here's the thing: do we chalk this down to they're tired? It's the last game of a 6-game road trip. It's the last period of a 6-game road trip.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
especially the players.
But they played well. That's the thing. They weren't mailing it in. I've seen other teams come through Winnipeg and they play against the Jets, and it's their last game before a road trip ends, and they're just mailing it in. The Jets win 4-5-2, 6-3, or whatever.
Yeah.
You can just tell that's not the same team. But the Jets played well against Dallas. There were times they really put it to Dallas, and other times that the Stars really put it to them. But it was a hard playoff game. It was. I really liked the game. I just think they deserved a better fate. I just wish Hellebuck would have been a little bit better. But on another note, I know you're smiling. I want to talk about something else. Patrick Laine is coming into the line after missing the first quarter of the season. And as much as I didn't like Patrick Laine with some of the nonsense he pulled here in Winnipeg and whatever else.
Did you see his line today?
What did he say? I just
if
heard
you don't get fired up playing in Montreal, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. And he's coming back. His first game is in Montreal. The fans, I'm sure, will give him a nice ovation. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does, in the home debut.
Let's be frank. It's a Montreal roster that badly needs the natural goal scorer.
Well, that's one thing out of many things they need. But yes, they need a few more goals. But yeah, who is he going to play with?
Somebody to stop goals.
Yeah, well, and that too. But who is Laine playing with? Do you know? Is he playing with Suzuki?
Playing with Slavkovsky and hold on a minute here. I'm gonna figure it out.
Probably Suzuki.
Yeah, probably. Hang on. But anyway, what are your expectations on Patrick Laine?
Sorry, what's that?
What are the expectations you have for Laine?
How about that he stays healthy and he makes it through a whole game? How do you like
So
that one?
Atlanta is taking line rushes with Doc and Slavkovsky.
Oh, okay. That's right,
And
because they were
then,
going to move Kirby Doc back to center. So he's playing,
yep.
yeah.
And then Kirby Doc to the media this morning is like an early Christmas present when referring to the return of Patrick Line into the lineup.
Mhm. There you go. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll be watching. I don't think I'd be able to see the game because that's not in our region, but we'll see the highlights and we'll see what happens. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting here as well.
Yeah. And I believe also tonight, Johnny Gaudreau is going to be honored in Calgary when the Columbus Jackets come into
Yep.
town for tonight's game,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which will be very, very special and
Let's
very
talk
good.
about the Flames here quickly for a minute. They did
Sure.
not have a good road trip. Their goal scoring is somewhat dried up. They are hang on a minute. They are 5-4-1 in their last 10, but their goal differential has slipped to -8. They're currently in the second and final wild card spot with a 12-9-4 record, but their goal scoring has suddenly dried up. Are the Flames heading to a scenario where we thought they would be a lot earlier this year?
What do you mean by that? Like what heading to a spot
Like,
where we
I for one, hand the Flames as a lottery team. Not
okay.
fighting for a playoff spot. To me, they played over their head for the first, 15 to 18 games.
Mhm.
Are they regressing to more of a normal state? So normal. Are we? Are they regressing to what we thought they would be? I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I I don't know. I think the Flames are again something. Look, the Flames for me, you know where they're very much like Nashville. Although the expectation for the team at the beginning of the season wasn't the same for Calgary versus Nashville, but they're a team that's gone through some changes. They've had some of the players leave. They've added some players, and you're not sure what to expect. You're expecting more from Nashville, and they haven't played to that yet. And the Flames, you didn't expect that much for them, and they're playing a little bit more or a little bit better than we expected them. But each of them is a team that's got some really good players, some veteran players, and veteran
Yeah.
players have a lot of pride. They're smart. They may lose a game, but then they know what it takes being a pro to come back the next day and be ready to go, and try to keep level-headed, and even keeled throughout a season as you get the ups and the downs. So I don't know. Calgary, yeah, they played maybe beyond their expectation. Now they've lost a few, but look at the Jets. In my mind, you can ask me, well, Rick, because the Jets went 4-6 for their last 10. Are we seeing the downfall of the Winnipeg Jets? No. I see them just having to plug away for a while. I think they've got to play a little bit smarter with the injuries that they've got. They have a chance now to play some younger players with Lambert and Heinola and Stanley making it into the lineup. You got to have a chance to, to have those players have a chance to grow in their positions. So, yeah, I like Calgary. I didn't think they were going to do much this year, but they've played beyond expectations. And yeah, maybe that's what happens. Like I said to you, the Jets are not going to go 18-1 every 20 games. It's just not going to happen. The teams that are a little bit lower, they start to win some games. The teams are really off the chart up high, they fall back. And then you get, everybody in sort of, the middle, which is all the mush in the middle. And you maybe have one or two teams way at the bottom and maybe one that's way off the chart up top. And everybody else is kind of in the middle. So that's where the Flames and where the Predators are and where the Jets are now too, you could argue. So
Yeah.
What are you reading? Every time I'm talking, you're reading. What are you looking at?
So I'm just reading. I'm just reading confirmation that the Four Nations rosters will be announced tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
At
Okay.
5:30 Central on Sportsnet. Sweden and Finland will be announced at 1 p.m. Central.
And
tomorrow.
then America and Canada when?
In the evening tomorrow, 5:30 Central.
Oh,
So,
huh.
and it's starting to seep out who is on the Canadian roster. I'm just searching to make sure that it is a valid source, because I am hearing a lot of the same things as what the source is supposedly suggesting.
Okay.
Do you feel that is there any sorry, trying to figure out how to phrase this. Is there any team that has surprised you so far at the quarter pole?
Surprised me in a positive or in a negative?
Either or.
Okay. Well, I would say the Jets are right there. I didn't think they'd be first overall. One quarter of the way into the season. Now they've fallen off a little bit now, and Minnesota's overtaken them in the Central. But the Jets have surpassed my expectations, and I would argue probably everyone in hockey. I don't think anybody thought they would be that good right out of the gate. Nashville has surprised me that they haven't been better, considering all the big moves they've made in the offseason with Stamkos, Marcia Show, and Brady. Is it pronounced Shea? I think it's Shea, right? Or Brady Skay, but I think it's got a K in there, but it's Brady Shea. But anyway, that they haven't been there. Actually, you know who's also disappointing me? The Bruins, but we've talked about them already. They've really surprised.
Yeah,
And now they
that's what Bob is
Yep.
asking here. What are your thoughts on the Nashville situation, particularly with regard to Stamkos and Marshall? Disappointing.
Disappointing, but it's time though. It's you can't just get into a system. Look at the Jets. Look how well they play now. This is year 3. They had 2 years because this system, I found a little bit more that this system was designed by Scott Arniel and Rick Bowness together. But it's Scott Arniel's this whole pressure, defense first system. This is the 3rd year now they had buy-in. They had a pair of years with Bonus and now first year with. So it takes 3 years, and we're just seeing how good it is. So you expect Stamkos, Shea, and Marcia Show to come from other organizations to come into Nashville and just instantly get it and then mesh with everybody around them. I mean, yeah, okay, it should be, but it's not always that case, right? But I think they're going to get better. Nashville has too much talent on that team. You got Roman Yossi, you got those guys. You've got Philip Forsberg. You've got UC Saros and net. They're going to be a good team. They're going to figure it out before the season's over. And I still think they're going to be in a playoff spot. I think I predicted here, if I remember, I think I picked them to be in a playoff spot.
Yeah.
I did. I picked them in a playoff spot, and you did not, actually, shockingly. Oh, look at that. You did not. But
yeah, it's very interesting that way.
Oh, no, you did. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong way. Yes, you did too. You picked Nashville to be in a playoff spot too. But anyway, that's the thing. But I still think for me the largest overall disappointment has been the Bruins, in my opinion. How about for you?
Where are we on the Oilers? Are they turning?
I asked you a question. I asked you a question.
Oh, sorry.
Who do you think is the biggest disappointment as a team this year? Oh, and I put the Oilers in there too for me. But anyway, it does.
Well, the Oilers for me have been the biggest disappointment.
Yeah. Okay. Why?
They've regressed. Stu Skinner isn't as good as he was. Their depth scoring isn't as good as it was. A team that has surprised me, though, Rich, if you would allow me to go there, is the Minnesota Wild. I had them. I'm not sure where I had them in my playoff predictions, but I certainly didn't have them tied for first in the Central in early December.
Yeah.
And especially now acquiring a young defenseman for a boatload of picks in David Juracek. Um, Boy, that's a really good trade for Minnesota. I love that trade on multiple levels.
They gave up a lot. Why would you give up more than what he's worth? He's only worth a first round draft choice, and they gave a first rounder, a
Yeah,
second rounder, a
he's a
third rounder.
highly touted future top 4 defenseman, though. Like for me, if I'm adjusting that trade comes to me, I'm making that trade all day and twice on Sunday and not thinking about it twice. Um, I love that trade so much. The other trade that happened this week, Rich, that I want to ask about is between Nashville and Colorado. Justice Odonen going from Colorado to Nashville. Nashville sending backup goaltender Scott Wedgwood to Colorado.
Yeah.
Kind of both teams just looking for a change in their backup goaltending.
Looks like it, eh? That's what it looks like to me.
Like, I just don't know how this moves the needle in either market other than fits in backup scenario. Just saying.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just about a change of location. Maybe one of the guys said, "I'd like a change of location, going to another team." Who knows? I mean, but you're right. I mean, it's a backup goalies. It's not whatever. Yeah. So what are the Jets going to do over the next week? I see here they play before our show next week. We've got 3 games. We've got St. Louis tonight at home. They go on the road for the Sabres and Chicago, and then they come home on Sunday afternoon
to play
against Columbus. So that's our show. That's our week at a glance. St. Louis at Buffalo, at Chicago, home to Columbus. How do you like their chances in those 4 games, and what do you see happening with their new lineup?
I would be over the moon at 3-1, but I'm gonna say they're gonna go 2-2.
2-2. Okay.
Maybe lose the game in overtime in there somewhere.
Okay.
I just part of what excites me so much is I want to see Brad Lambert as that second line center tonight.
I do too. I think he's ready. He could have been ready at the beginning of the season, but they've got so many guys, veteran guys in front of him, right? Signed. But
yeah,
I think the coaches were ready to have him in the lineup, right? Like if they had lost a bunch of other free agents and they were stuck, I don't think they would have any problem putting him in in the second line center or in the fourth line center or whatever. So I'm excited about. I want to see what he can do to playing with really good players, like playing with Perfetti and Velarde is going to be good for him.
Yep, and especially having Velarde who can take face-offs if Lambert suddenly hits a wall or something or needs something of insulation, if you will.
And also because Lambert is a lefty and Velarde's a righty, so you sometimes shift
that makes that top stitch sort of switch right away well worth it. The other thing that's interesting is this sort of where does David Gustafsson go in the lineup versus relative to, people look at Gustafsson and Morgan Barron as interchangeable. For me, Morgan Barron hasn't done anything to be taken out of the lineup, just my opinion. I have to wonder is if the way this looks, is if Lambert does extremely well in that number 2 spot, center spot for the next week when Ehlers comes back, is if you don't look at some kind of solution that has Brad Lambert moving into that second line center spot and then Vlad Nemestikov anchoring your fourth line. I think ultimately, if the Jets want to get to where they need to go, Vladislav Namestnikov is in the Winnipeg Jets bottom six. If the Jets, all things being equal, win a Stanley Cup in the next 2-3 seasons, Vladislav Namestnikov is in the bottom part of the lineup, not in your top six. And I wonder if Lambert is the answer to a lot of those perceived issues in the top six.
Maybe, but it's going to depend on who you retain, who you sign,
and it's also a new school of thinking here, Rick. I mean, Lambert's coming in and he's not going to the fourth line. He's not going to, sit for 10 games and then go back to the Moose. He got called up today. Boom, he's in at the second line center. Maybe a necessity, but that's also a big change from what we've had in past years.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting. The Brad Lambert experiment starts now. People were clamoring to have him in the top six. Well, Brad, not to put any pressure on you, but it's showtime.
Yeah, I agree.
It's showtime. If people were ready to anoint him as the second line center, the time is now to play.
Well, sure. But again, would you not have to give him some grace and get, like, he's a rookie, right? He's only played one NHL game.
Absolutely. I'm not saying he's coming in tonight and getting 2 goals and 1 assist and 1 goal and 2 assists later this week. He's going to make mistakes. But in the one game that I went to last year in which Brad Lambert played, he did not look out of place. And I want to see what he does with an off season of training under him, having had that carrot of an NHL game. I want to see what he does starting tonight.
I agree. So you think, we got a comment from a listener, thinks the Jets are going to go 3-1. You're saying, what are you saying? 2-1-1? Or what did you say? No, you said 2-2.
2-1-1, 2-2, yeah.
You said 2. You can't change your mind. It's in the script. You can't change 2-2. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go 2-1-1. I might even say 3-1. But I think they're going to get to overtime, and then whatever happens in overtime. They haven't had an overtime game for a long time, not since like the first week or two of the season. So
the other thing too, at the schedule,
but these are all. Just let me finish my point.
Yeah.
These are all winnable games. Like, when you think about it, if the Jets were all healthy, I would say they could go 4-0. But with this lineup, it's kind of like, I'm not sure. But St. Louis, at Buffalo, at Chicago, home to Columbus, those are all winnable games. So, in my mind, but. Anyway, I think we're good. We're at the top of the hour.
We will be back next Monday. Promise. We'll be back next Monday.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Jets game next Tuesday, so it can't be Tuesday, so it's got to be Monday.
Right on.
All right. On behalf of Brett Petty, this is Vital Just saying thank you so much for watching, and we will chat next week. Bye for now.